recent data suggests that it's likely upwards of 70% or more of the nation's abortions are the abortion pill. It's being smuggled across state lines through snail mail, through the Postal Service, into all 50 states in America. No aborting mother who's willing to break the law in their state is going to report, hey, I killed my baby and broke the law. The only people that know about it are the people shipping it, the woman getting it, flushed the baby down the toilet. No one knows. If you're in the baby killing business, the abortion pill is an excellent product. Breaking news, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier is suing Planned Parenthood for falsely marketing that abortion pills are safer than over-the-counter medications like Tylenol. He exposed that 1 in 25 women who consume the abortion pill are hospitalized. Not shocking. The abortion pill that Planned Parenthood passes out like candy is extremely dangerous. Well, firstly, because it murders babies. Not safe, but also for the aborting mothers. I've been saying this for years, that those who murder the unborn cannot be trusted to govern the born. PolitiFact is working overtime to debunk this claim. So we're going to fact check the fact checkers, I guess. I don't know. Let's fact check the lies they're spewing and dive deeper into the truth and history behind the abortion pill. Give us a rating and review. Help us reach more people. We really appreciate it, guys. I want to keep thanking you guys. I'm noticing all the ratings and all the reviews, little written reviews come in. If you haven't done that yet, please go do that for us. It takes 30 seconds. The iTunes Podcast Purple app, Seth Gruber Show, 5 stars, write in a little positive review. It shoves the show up the charts and more people start listening. We thank you so much. YouTube has digitally assassinated this show for 48 hours before and had to reinstate it because they said, oops, we're wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. So follow us on Rumble, where free speech lives, in case YouTube comes for us again. Subscribe at Rumble and join us at the White Rose Resistance. We're probably the most masculine pro-life organization in America because it's time for men to lead. Men need to be protectors of women and children, of babies, especially when they're being murdered. This is our job as men. It's our job as the church, though, by and large. Christian resistance against child killing is part of our heritage, actually. And so if you believe that the local church is the solution to all of this, then we would love your support as we're launching resistance chapters all around the country, getting the local church off their high knees, out of their pews, and into the culture war on behalf of the little ones who cannot speak for themselves. Go to thewhiterose.life, thewhiterose.life, and join us as an ally of the White Rose Resistance. That's $35 a month. These days, that's like, 2 or 3 large lattes at any coffee shop. And you'll get your battle box in the mail. Welcome to the war. And then log in on the White Rose app and you get all these amazing resources. At $70 a month, we call that air support. You join our Books in the Barracks book club. Hang out with me on Zoom with supporters from all around the world. Let's talk about the books we're reading. They help us understand our culture better so we can reverse engineer the sexual revolution and rebuild a culture of life. Thewhiterose.life. Join us as a monthly supporter. It means so much to us. Let's get into it. This is the Seth Gruber Show. The fact checkers, they're here to save us, guys. The 5 Pinocchio'd Washington Post, the PolitiFacts. Yeah, obviously, the fact-checking industry is not a left-wing phenomenon at all. I don't know how much more like fact checks I can take. I guess only in the last year has fact-checking become something enjoyable because of like Elon Musk buying Twitter. And now like community notes have become like the new fact checking. And now we're owning the libs with fact checking. But that's never really been the case until recently. The fact checking companies and organizations have always been funded by and run by a bunch of political left wingers. And one of the most shocking claims that has never been fact checked accurately by all of these speaking truth to power, democracy dies in darkness leftists is this claim from Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry that we've been hearing for years. Don't you know the abortion pill is safer than Tylenol? Well, not for the baby, by the way. As it turns out, the abortion pill is actually intended and created to murder people, murder little people, preborn people, children. But of course, they mean it's safer for the aborting mother. The abortion pill is safer for the aborting mother than Tylenol. Don't you know? How many people do you know that have died and had to be hospitalized because they took a Tylenol to get rid of their headache. But wait, I know lots of people, have spoken to lots of people, and have heard tons of stories of people having those kinds of things happening when they took the abortion pill. And then they go, well, that's just anecdotal, Seth. That's not data. Well, the plural of anecdote is data. And sometimes what's going on on the ground, what we see happening in the real world, just doesn't line up with what we're being told by the fact checkers, right? And the data organizations. The Florida Attorney General has just sued Planned Parenthood for this claim. This is a great way to fight back, okay? We may have to do this at some point, actually, because we've actually been libeled by, I think it was the Daily Mail and other groups because of my appearance on Alex Clark, Culture Apothecary, and another health podcast. Talking about abortions linked to breast cancer, preterm delivery and subsequent pregnancies, and mental health. And of course, they would say, that's not true, none of that's true, none of that's true, fact check, fact check, fact check. Well, one of the great ways to prove the lies of the abortion industry and to validate and defend our claims is in the courtroom, actually. So this is an incredible move from the Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier, suing Planned Parenthood for what he called deceptive marketing practices involving the abortion pills. On November 6th, in a video on X, Uthmeier said Planned Parenthood falsely marketed to women that abortion pills are safer than over-the-counter medications. And of course, he's referring primarily to the abortion, to Tylenol, which is Planned Parenthood's claim. He says evidence suggests that 1 in 25 women who consume these dangerous pills are hospitalized, and we've seen dozens of reported deaths. This is wrong, and we're going to hold them accountable. The 19th News did a whole article on this that just dropped, I believe, on November 19th, Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. By the way, just so you know, the 19th News is an independent nonprofit newsroom reporting on gender, politics, policy, and power. So, yeah, tell me what your biases are, please. I mean, at least they're honest. But just so you know, they're very upset with Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier because they want to defend this claim that the abortion pill is safer than Tylenol. The 19th News reports, besides conflating hospitalizations and ER visits, Uthmeier cited studies with small sample sizes. Multiple larger studies found lower rates of both ER visits and hospitalizations following medication abortion. Researchers told PolitiFact, emergency department visits are not a reliable indicator of drug safety and are not proof that patients experience serious adverse events or were admitted to the hospital. And so PolitiFact, of course, steps into all of this to try to make sure that the American public does not listen to Florida Attorney General. PolitiFact doesn't want women to know that the abortion pill is actually very dangerous for them. Yeah, I mean, obviously, our arguments as pro-lifers is that, like, abortion is wrong because it kills babies. It kills little humans. And humans have a right to life in virtue of being human. So I always want to make sure that I don't make a case against abortion based off of the negative consequences for the aborting mother. Like, it's wrong because it kills little humans. But turns out when you try to murder your kid in your womb, like, it has negative repercussions for you. Like, anyone with a semi-functioning prefrontal cortex with like 2 brain cells left to rub together should be able to reach this conclusion. Like, it's unnatural. It's natural to give birth. It's natural for a woman to get pregnant. It's natural for you to then give birth to that child. Your body was designed and is preparing for doing that. What's unnatural is to, stick forceps up your vaginal canal. Stick a vacuum suction catheter tube, start sucking off limbs. Oops, we left a floating dead baby piece in your uterus. Sorry, you got sepsis. Like, all of that is unnatural. It's unnatural to take a pill so that progesterone is cut off and your baby's starved to death. It's crazy that it's the PhD people who struggle to understand what the layperson grasps as axiomatic. That, like, doing that sounds unnatural. And, like, if it's unnatural, like, maybe there's some like health risks to that. Like, it's actually the layperson who has not been indoctrinated into ideology that goes, oh yeah, that makes total sense. But PolitiFact, who responds to the beck and call of the abortion practitioners and Planned Parenthood planners, wants to mark this as mostly false so that you're not misled, so that women don't know that, you know what, like this is all pretty screwed up and like it's probably going to have negative health impacts for your future as well. PolitiFact wrote saying, Uthmeier said evidence suggests that 1 in 25 women who consume abortion pills are hospitalized. Uthmeier conflated hospitalizations with emergency department visits. Roughly 1 in 25 women visited the ER in the 2 studies Uthmeier cited, but only 5 out of 1,043, or 1 in 200, were hospitalized related to the abortion pill. ER visits, which can often involve only observational care followed by release, are not a reliable indicator of drug safety, researchers said, and do not mean patients experienced a serious adverse event or were admitted to the hospital. Several other studies found lower rates of ER treatment and hospitalizations following medication abortion. Uthmeier's statement contains an element of truth but ignores critical facts that would give a different impression. We rate it mostly false. But remember, Florida Attorney General Uthmeier's lawsuit against Planned Parenthood is based off of this claim that the abortion pill is safer than Tylenol, which, by the way, I don't recall PolitiFact coming out when former Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards wrote that in a New York Times opinion editorial in 2018. I don't recall PolitiFact. In fact, we covered that on this show, which I launched in 2019, shortly after she wrote that in the Los Angeles Times. And I don't remember them coming out to cover the falsity of that claim. So we're going to get into this today because this is the future of the abortion fight. In fact, recent data suggests that it's likely upwards of 70% or more of the nation's abortions are the abortion pill. And it's being smuggled across state lines through snail mail, through the Postal Service, into all 50 states in America. This is the abortion industry's new focus, is to be able to continue to sell abortions at high margins, by the way, because, you're not paying abortion clinic staff. You're not paying to lease a brick and mortar center. You're not having to pay a third party vendor to get rid of the dead babies, right? Because they just go down the toilet these days in America. So this is a way for them to make a lot of money. And most aborting mothers, no aborting mother who's willing to break the law in their state is going to report like, hey, I killed my baby and broke the law. So the only people that know about it are the people shipping it, the woman getting it. Flush the baby down the toilet. No one knows this. I mean, if you're in the baby killing business, the abortion pill is an excellent product. It's an excellent murderous product for you to be able to circumvent state legislation and continue to sell abortions at high margins. Guys, you're not going to want to miss Life or Death Con. Check this out.
The problem is way less the gay communists and the butch feminists majoring in lesbian dance theory who want to throw you into gulags until you say abortion's healthcare. That's not really the main problem. The main problem is the blood-bought bride of Christ who ought to know better, who is silent and asleep in the light.
As go evangelicals, so goes conservatism.
The problem is that I don't even think the pro-life movement at this point actually sees abortion as murder.
This is not a healthcare issue. This is a gospel issue.
We have made offending our neighbor worse than offending God.
It was Christians who ended every single human rights abuse. Christians have always been at the forefront.
To win a nation, you don't storm the castle, you control the countrysides. You control the home, the family, the local church.
So mark your calendars, guys. Join us for our second annual Life or Death Con in Washington, D.C. on January 22nd, 2026. The beginning of the America's 250 year, okay? We're going to start it right in our nation's capital, defending the unborn. It's a one-day charge to awaken, equip, and send out believers who are ready to make a real difference in our culture. Join me and Steve Dace, Megan Basham, Dr. George Grand, Abby Johnson, Nolene Cedra, AJ Hurley, and more. Then the very next day, march shoulder to shoulder with the White Rose Resistance at the March for Life on January 23rd in our nation's capital. Now is the time to get involved in the culture war, which is really just a proxy war for the spiritual war. It's going to be an amazing week of impact in Washington, D.C., and I want to see you there. Get your ticket for Life or Death Con at lifeordeathcon.com and use code Seth, my name, Seth, for 20% off your ticket. I'll see you in Washington, D.C. So this is a huge focus. I'm grateful for the Republican leadership in Florida, because these kinds of lawsuits and these kind of political public fights get a lot of media attention, which draws people into the dialogue. And if we can discredit this claim in the court, I think this can do a lot to shift attitudes and change people's minds about the horror that is the abortion industry and the abortion pill. But before we go into some of the real data, okay, to respond to PolitiFact and this huge article over at the 19th News that's just bolstering PolitiFact's lies, I wanted to give you a brief history on like what the heck this abortion pill thing is. We've done this in prior episodes way back, but it's been a long time. You probably don't remember all the details. I sometimes have to brush up on all the details and the background and the history and the information. And if you're a new listener to the show, it's all new to you anyways. What is the abortion pill? How did it come to America? What actually is some of the history that's sometimes been hidden and difficult to trace behind this murderous pill that's taking the lives of 700,000 babies at least every 12 months in America? So French endocrinologist Étienne-Émile Baillaud developed the abortion pill and worked as a consultant for Roussel-Ucloff in the 1980s. By the way, Roussel-Ucloff's, that's stands for R and U, and so their name's in RU486, the abortion pill. Roussel-Ucloff's majority shareholder was a company called Hoechst AG, which had emerged from the breakup of a German chemical company. Hoechst AG in 1916 co-founded a German chemical company known as IG Farben. IG Farben later became infamous for the creation of a cyanide gas known as Zyklon B. The gas used to poison Jews and other Nazi undesirables in Nazi death camps. So Hoechst AG simply shifted from creating poison for the Nazis to kill their undesirables and unwanteds to creating poison to murder babies. It's the same company. Hoechst AG is the majority shareholder of Roussel-Ucloff, the inventor of the abortion pill. On the 20th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, Bill Clinton signed an executive order to bring the RU486 abortion pill to the United States. In 1994, in exchange for product liability immunity, Roussel-Ucloff donated its rights to manufacture, market, and distribute the abortion pill to the Population Council. By the way, the first 4 presidents of the Population Council were out-and-out eugenicists who wished to utilize the abortion pill to weed out the undesirables, those that they called unfit. The Population Council is funded in large part by people like Bill and Melinda Gates. When the Population Council couldn't find a single American pharmaceutical company to research and manufacture the abortion pill, abortion activists helped launch Danko Laboratories, a single product company of confidential investors formed with the express purpose of manufacturing and distributing the abortion pill for the U.S. market. Originally funded by the David and Lucille Packard Foundation, George Soros, Warren Buffett, and the Kaiser Family Foundation, Danko Laboratories was originally chartered offshore in the Grand Cayman Islands. But the FDA has refused to disclose the location of the manufacturer, and Danko refuses to identify its current executives or investors. By the way, in 2000, this was sort of fascinating. The Wall Street Journal reported that Danko's manufacturer was Chinese pharmaceutical company Hualin Pharmaceutical, which was nationalized by the Chinese Communist Party in 1949. So this means that Danko Laboratories could be flooding legal abortion drugs into the U.S. through a pharmaceutical company owned by the Chinese Communist Party, which is also responsible for millions of forced abortions, of course. So the abortion industry has been doing everything they can to convince the public that the abortion pill is safe, despite the fact that it kills babies, and is dangerous for the women taking it as well. The sources abortion activists cite to argue that the abortion pill is safe, including the pro-abortion journal Contraception and Genuity Health projects, are both funded by David and Lucille Packard Foundation, one of the major financiers behind Danko Laboratories. So I don't know, like, if you need any help here, but conflict of interest that the major financier behind the manufacturing of the abortion pill would also be funding studies and clinical trials that seek to show that the abortion pill is safe in the first place. Okay. So that's a little bit of the history behind the abortion pill that Planned Parenthood has told you for years is safer than Tylenol, which has led to this lawsuit from the Florida Attorney General. So exactly how safe is the abortion pill for mothers? I don't really care, actually. Like, I only care because I want to discredit the abortion industry. I want to show that they're happy to sacrifice the health and safety of the very women that they say they exist to serve in order to make a quick buck. Otherwise, I don't really care about it. Like, we just need to ban the abortion pill because it kills babies. Like, if it was safe for mothers, I wouldn't care. Like, it's killing little humans. But these kinds of political fights, I mean, a lawsuit from Florida, like the state that the left hates the most right now, like, that's amazing. Okay. And the left's been saying this for years, that the abortion pill is safer than Tylenol. So like, that needs to be challenged publicly, because it then opens up the whole debate really to look at the facts of how absolutely horrifically dangerous the abortion pill is to the aborting mothers, to show that this is an industry that doesn't care about anyone. Not the child, not the mothers, just themselves, their business, and enriching themselves off of blood money. So I want to prove all of that to awaken moral intuitions of Americans who might otherwise be described as pro-choice moderates. This is why I did the whole long conversation with Alex Clark on abortion's impact to breast cancer, preterm delivery, and future pregnancies, and mental health. Because it shows that they're hiding all of that information from the very pro-choice women that they say they exist to serve. They don't care about their health either. The aborting mother, like the unborn child, are both sacrificial lambs to the abortion industry on the altar of abortion access. And that's why this is important. One of the requirements that the FDA imposed when they approved this medication years ago was that Danko Laboratories, that we were just talking about, the manufacturer, and that any future manufacturers report to the FDA any adverse events, okay, negative repercussions, okay, from taking the abortion pill. But the manufacturer is dependent on two things. One, the manufacturer has to get a report from the abortion provider that there was a complication. Does that make sense? If Danko is required to report to the FDA negative impacts, adverse events from the abortion pill, they have to receive those. They have to get a report from the abortion provider providing the abortion pill. How many abortion providers are compliant with that? We don't know, because no state is allowed to go in and audit records or inspect clinics. Every time you try as a state legislature to impose accountability on the abortion industry, the ACLU and Planned Parenthood trot it out to a friendly judge in federal court and get it blocked. Some of that's changing now that Roe v. Wade's been overturned, praise God. But the abortion clinic, as far as the information goes, is a great big black hole. We don't know what goes on inside. But despite these limitations, a study was undertaken by the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists, otherwise known as APLOG. APLOG requested the adverse events reports regarding mifepristone from the FDA. The FDA gave APLOG 6,158 pages of adverse event reports. 6,158 pages of adverse event reports. Then duplicate reports, reports from outside the U.S., or reports of data previously published were excluded. This left 3,197 reports, of which 537 had insufficient data for meaningful analysis. Of the 2,660 remaining reports, a standardized system was used to analyze the seriousness of the complications by a panel of physicians who agreed to review the records. Now, of the 2,660 women, 2,243 of them required surgery to treat complications of the abortion pill. Of the 2,660 women in the, or reports, which represent individual women, 2,243 required surgery to treat complications of the abortion pill. And more than 60% of those were done by medical doctors other than the ones who provide abortion services. So 60% of that 2,243 involve situations with doctors who were not the abortion provider. So they would not have reported the adverse events, the surgery needed, the negative repercussions of the abortion pill to the manufacturer, Danko. So that's a big statistical black hole. So that's data that Danko would have not have gotten to the FDA. Now, thankfully, sometimes MDs might report. Obviously, the FDA had some of this data, right? But if most of those complications are being dealt with by doctors who are not the abortion provider, then they're not required to report that to the abortion manufacturer who provided the abortion pill that led to the adverse event in the first place. Nearly 2/3 of the women whose reported complications required surgery had to seek care outside of the abortion clinic. That means that 2/3 of the moderate and severe complications that happen require surgery. The women are not getting the care from the abortion provider. Those adverse events were not reported to Danko by the abortion provider. So when the abortion industry claims that the abortion pill is safer than Tylenol, or sometimes they often say the abortion pill is safer than surgical abortion. So if you're a mom and you need to kill your kid, you should do the abortion pill over surgical abortion. These are also the same people, by the way, who say that abortion is safer than childbirth. That's a study from Raymond and Grimes. They claimed that abortion is 14 times safer for the aborting mother than giving birth naturally during childbirth. It's an absolutely ridiculous claim. And when David Reardon, a PhD, submitted a rebuttal study to the Raymond and Grimes paper to the Obstetrics and Gynecology journal that published the Raymond and Grimes paper in the first place, where that stat came from, they refused to publish his results, and he had to go elsewhere to get it published. So confirmation bias. These people are not interested in pursuing the truth and following it wherever it takes them. Finland, because they have socialized medicine, has a centralized record system. And sometimes this gives us very interesting data that is more difficult to get in America. APLOG reviewed data from Finland, which found that medication abortion is 4 times more likely to have an adverse event than a surgical abortion. Meaning the 70% of women now or something, the 70% of the aborting mothers in America every 12 months that are taking the abortion pill, that's 4 times more dangerous for them than surgical abortion. Is Planned Parenthood telling women that? Of course they're not. This is why this lawsuit from the Florida Attorney General is so important. It's going to force all of this data to be hashed out in court. APLOG found that 20%, this was from the Finland centralized record system, they found that 20% will have significant adverse events, up to 8% will need emergency surgery, and 2 to 3% will need transfusions. If you multiply 8% of the women getting abortions via the abortion pill in Finland, if you multiply 8% needing urgent or emergency surgery times approximately 630,000 per year, it's at least 63%. That was the Guttmacher Institute's stat and data from the 2023 calendar year of abortions. It's increased since then. But if you multiply 8% needing urgent or emergency surgery times approximately 630,000 per year, that's 50,400 women per year. So over 50,000 women a year needing emergency, urgent surgery. And by the way, isn't the left always like praising socialized medicine? Isn't that what they want here? And by the way, we already have socialized medicine in America. It's just not as socialist as some of the Nordic countries or the UK, but we have socialized medicine. We do not have a free market system in healthcare in America. Okay. But aren't they always trying to push us further left? More socialized medicine? But then when we look at some of those countries and their data is saying absolutely 180 degrees opposite things that their manufactured data is saying in America, they just ignore it. I thought we love socialized medicine. I thought we were supposed to. Data from Finland says that abortion across the board is 4 times more likely to cause death in childbirth and delivery. So the Raymond and Grimes paper that says abortion is 14 times safer than childbirth, and the Obstetrics and Gynecology Journal won't run any study to counter it as a rebuttal. But the Finland data says that abortion in general, regardless of how you kill the baby, is 4 times more likely to kill the aborting mother than giving birth to the child. My understanding is that abortion is illegal in Finland after 12 weeks, unless mother's life is in danger or exceptional circumstances. So the overwhelming vast majority of abortions are done at less than 12 weeks. So that's first trimester. And still, they are 4 times more likely to kill the mother than childbirth. What about America, where a bunch of our states, it's legal into the second or all the way through birth? But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show, Every Life Diaper Company, baby. Literally, babies. If you need things for the babies, like diapers and wipes and, bath time shampoos and soaps, it's Every Life. It's like the left is like sometimes we laugh at the destruction of the wicked, but it is actually really sad. It's tragic. They're aborting, transing, and vaccinating themselves into extinction. Conservative Christians are having all the babies, and yet we're the ones buying the baby goods, and almost all 8 of America's major diaper companies, baby brands, are pro-abortion. So how do you rebuild a culture of life when we're funding the culture of death? We need to stop. And so if you're having babies or your adult children are giving you grandkids or the nursery at your church, this is like no excuses. Talk about like the most simple thing where you can pat yourself on the back that you're fighting back with your wallet, but it's actually a meaningful action. Go get your diaper and wipes and baby shampoos from everylife.com. Use promo code Seth10, Seth10 for 10% off your first order. And that lets them know that we sent you. That's, they sponsor the show, so you're helping us too. Everylife.com, promo code Seth10, Seth10 for 10% off your first order. And if you sign up for their subscription, it just gets shipped right to the house. Me and my wife do this. We don't even have to make those emergency runs to Walmart. It's amazing. Why would you not do it? If you're having babies, everylife.com. Thank you, Every Life, for being our primary sponsor here at the Seth Gruber Show. Now, here's an interesting part of this conversation is that when the abortion industry and their researchers are honest, when they accidentally allow the data and facts to speak for themselves, we see the same thing. One study called Incidence of Emergency Room Department Visits and Complications After Abortion, which Tracy Weitz and Daniel Grossman, that's literally his last name, Daniel Grossman, and University of California professor and abortion advocate Ushma Upadhyay, who's also a abortion trainer. They found that chemical abortion is 4 times as risky for women as a first trimester surgical abortion, which is what the Finland data said as well, that abortion pills are 4 times more dangerous for women than surgical abortion. Daniel Grossman, a former NARAL board member, National Abortion Rights Action League, and current National Abortion Federation board member, a faculty member in the Department of Obstetrics, Gynecology, and Reproductive Sciences at the University of California, San Francisco, UCSF, which openly trains abortionists. UCSF, by the way, is heavily funded by the Buffett Foundation. Daniel Grossman served on California Governor Gavin Newsom's Future of Abortion Council. He's also a senior advisor at IBIS Reproductive Health, which as recently as 2020 was directly funded by the abortion pills manufacturer Danco Laboratories and is currently funded by the Packard Foundation, a large investor in Danco. In addition, Daniel Grossman sits on the editorial board of the journal Conception, which publishes many of his abortion pill studies. Contraception happens to be the official journal of the Society of Family Planning, founded with a generous contribution from the Packard Foundation and received $1 million from the Buffett Foundation, both large investors in Danco Laboratories. Okay. Daniel Grossman was an author on a study called Incidence of Emergency Room Department Visits and Complications After Abortion. It examined the abortion complication rate of women in California who underwent abortions from 2009 to 2010, which were paid for through Medicaid, including the women who were diagnosed or treated at emergency rooms rather than the abortion facilities. Researchers in the study found that among all abortions reviewed, the complication rate was 5.2% for women who took the abortion pill, compared to 1.3% for first trimester surgical abortions. There it is. When reviewing abortions that resulted in a major complications, the study found that more severe complications occurred for the abortion pill at a rate of 0.31% compared to 0.16% for first trimester surgical abortions. So the study showed that medication abortion is 4 times more likely to have an adverse event than a surgical abortion. And that was from an abortion trainers and literal abortionists who murder babies. Oops, their own data admits what the Finland socialized medicine data also admits. So we can cite the abortionists and the top abortion trainers in the country at the University of California, San Francisco, as evidence against Planned Parenthood's claim that the abortion pill is safer than Tylenol. We need to get this information in the hands of Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier so he can just cite his own opponent's data to defend himself. Finland's study of the data, let me say this again, Finland's study of the data comparing medical abortions to surgical abortions, almost 50,000 women were evaluated. And that's where the 4-fold increase in complications for medication versus surgical came from. Newsflash, news report. Planned Parenthood abortion trainers admit that the abortion pill is 4 times more dangerous than surgical abortion. It's certainly not safer than Tylenol. I think we can say that abortion is not safer than Tylenol for the aborting mother. And the fact that we had to look at data to back that up is pretty pathetic, pretty sad. What's interesting is that the 19th news source who's trying to go to bat for PolitiFact in trying to discredit Florida Attorney General's claims about how dangerous abortion is, they actually spoke with and reached out to Dr. Daniel Grossman, the same guy whose study literally shows what I'm saying, that the abortion pill is not safe for aborting mothers. It's like 4 times more dangerous for her than surgical abortions. And Daniel Grossman writes, in large studies of medication abortion, hospitalization is very rare, generally occurring in less than 0.5% of patients. Dr. Daniel Grossman, a professor of obstetrics, gynecology, and reproductive services at the University of San Francisco, wrote in an email to PolitiFact. Grossman said ER visits are more common because patients who do not live near their provider might have to go to an emergency department for anything that requires in-person consultation, including to confirm that an abortion was successful. The FDA label that Uthmeier cited also showed hospitalization rates of 0.04% to 0.06% among 14,339 women evaluated in 3 studies, or about 86 women on the higher end of the range. The FDA label does not include the research methodology or details about the cases. Danko Laboratories, which manufactures and distributes mifepristone under the brand name Mifeprex, provided the studies to PolitiFact. The 2 reports showed 41 women out of 1,043 visited the ER after taking abortion pills. 8 of the 41 were hospitalized, and of those, 3 were admitted for unrelated reasons, including pancreatitis and hip pain. That means 5 out of the 1,043 women evaluated were hospitalized for reasons related to abortion pills. And then they cite Ushma Upadhyay, who was one of the 3 abortion folks in that study that proved our points. Who said the actual percentage of related serious adverse events that required hospital admission in these 2 studies was 0.5%, said Ushma Upadhyay, a professor and public health scientist at UCSF. Okay, so I love it when we can cite our enemies' data to discredit them. And as this whole fight goes to the courts, thanks to Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier, it will be interesting to see how much we can defund Planned Parenthood. I'd love to see them give a multi-million dollar payout for lying to Americans for decades. I mean, think of all the women who took the abortion pill when they heard all this, right? Oh, it's safer than Tylenol? Well, great. That's awesome. I can kill my kid, and that's safer than getting rid of a headache. Let's go do it. And think of all the women who've been hospitalized or had hemorrhaging or had to have surgery from the data that we went through because of the abortion pill. I mean, listen, the solution is you just criminalize and ban abortion. But in the meantime, I'm happy to be able to hash this out in the courts and for Americans to actually see how much they've been being lied to by the world's largest abortion provider. No, abortion pills are not safer than Tylenol. No, abortion is not safer than giving birth naturally during childbirth, which women have been doing since the beginning of human history. Okay, well, we'll keep our thumb on this whole story and update you on this. We need to sue Planned Parenthood for crimes against humanity, but in the meantime, we'll take this. Until next time, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is The Seth Gruber Show.